Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I have the November update to my Makeup Panners book club. So this is a project pan I created because I wanted to read more books, and what better way to read more books than to challenge myself, you know, talking about books and makeup together. So it's a project pan where you pull in makeup items, beauty items that in some way correspond to the book that you're currently reading. So it's very, very easy. I'm very pleased with this project. I have been reading so much more than I did before starting this project, basically. So I'm gonna talk about the books I've read through October, now November, and the book that I was reading last update was this one. This is of course the second book of the ACOTAR series, A Court of Mist and Fury. I have not read the ACOTAR series. I was not on the hype train when they became hype, so I'm catching up. And fair to say, I was not very impressed with the first one, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I thought it was a bit too rushed, and I felt like some of the bits were, I don't know, it felt not very, I don't know what I'm trying to find for words to describe my feelings about ACOTAR, but I felt like it was lacking finesse, basically. So I went into this one with, you know, a bit, oh, it's absolutely fine. However, I do know that many people feel like the first book is not really representative of the the rest of the series. So I was pleasantly surprised when I started reading this one. Of course, it is longer than ACOTAR. I felt like probably there was an editor somewhere that cut a lot of things from ACOTAR, and it was just too rushed. Too many things happened in the first book, whereas I feel like this is where they kind of allow the things that happens to take some time. I mean, the main character Fairy, she is so traumatized from the events from last book, and the author is allowing her to feel the trauma and to like be, you know, to be traumatized. It's not like, oh, this was a very traumatizing experience, but yeah, now I'm gonna be cool and awesome anyways. So I do appreciate that it's a better pace in this book, and I also feel like the stakes are a bit different. I feel like the I don't know, it was a much more of a page turner, this one, than the first one, and I love the sizzling sexual tension in this book. I also feel like I appreciate an author not just like building up the sizzling tension between the like romantic prospect relationship, and then like within 100 pages they are just jumping each other's bones. I appreciate how she stretches out things. You don't need to rush it if you have the goal of like a long-term series. So there are still bits in the ideas of this. I mean, I do understand that this is like the OG Fae, you know, the start of the Fae, the sexy Fae, not the fairies, but sexy Fae genre. I still feel like there are some bits that are a bit cringe. Some bits when it comes to the magic and everything that feels like it's very convenient, many things. And some things I feel like don't make sense in how they manage to solve it or whatever. So I mean, it's better than the first one. It's still not my above and, you know, all best book I've ever read. Not by a stretch, but I did enjoy this one, and I also did finish it. So I we'll be talking about a new book that I'm reading at the end. I did read a lot this month because I read both at work, and I went traveling, and I brought long books to read on trains and long flights. So for the ACOTAR series I enrolled 3 items. Let's talk about those and my goals. I also have an item remaining from a book I read previously, so I'm going to talk about that as well. Let's get into what I enrolled for the A Court of Mist and Fury. So I did enroll a nail polish. I'm trying to like rotate through my indie nail polishes as good as I can. And the nail polish I enrolled for this book is the Vanessa Molina We Will Have a Wedding. This is from the Corpse Bride collection that they did. And yeah, why did I enroll this nail polish? Well, as you can see, it is, or as the name suggests, it's connected to wedding. And in the beginning of this book, Fairy and what's his name, Tamlin, they are about to get married. So I thought, you know, the name is perfect for that sequence. Now, of course, like a little spoiler, they do not, but the in the beginning, she is about to marry Tamlin. I wanted to use this nail polish 3 times, which I have done. I don't know if you can tell, like, there is any visual difference here, but I was able to use it 3 times. This is absolutely stunning. I love this shade. It has so many nice flips from a teal to a green, goldish to purple. Beautiful, beautiful formula. So I did reach my goal on that one. I also enrolled the lip liner, a red lip liner from the brand Nouba. I don't know if this is even a brand anymore. This lip liner is one of the oldest makeup items in my collection. It still works out super, super well. So the lip liner is, I think it's just in the shade 53. That's the look there. And you can see what it looked like when I roll it in. I wanted to use this 10 times. And this corresponds to the novel because Fairy from the last book, she had to kill some people, and then she has like she is traumatized by the color red. She cannot handle the color red in any way because it reminds her of the blood from, you know, her killings, and so the red lip liner is connected to the color red and that symbolism in the book. This is how much like where it is today. I think I've sharpened it once or twice. So I'm using it today underneath my lipstick, a pink lipstick. I've used this with many lip colors that aren't red because I can warm them up a little bit. I have quite a lot of cool toned lipsticks, and if I want to warm them up, I have used this lip liner as a base on my entire lips and then put the lipstick on top. So used it more than 10 times, but this is going to like be with me until I die, probably. This was such a long lip liner when I got it, and I mean, yeah, it's, I don't know if I will ever be able to finish it. Alright, then I also enrolled my Colorpop and Tinkerbell eyeshadow palette. This is Sprinkle a Little Magic, and obviously I re-enrolled this one because Tinkerbell is a fairy. Now she's the old school fairy, you know, the small ones. And in this one they have like high fae and lower fae, so fair creatures. So maybe Tinkerbell would be a lower fae in this realm. But I wanted to use this eyeshadow palette, No Pan Left Behind, and try and hit a pan. But my reasoning was that I have not used this in a while, and if I use it, No Pan Left Behind, and kind of felt underwhelmed, I can declutter it. So this is what it's looking like today. So as you can see, I did not hit a pan. I have used all of the shades in this palette, but I think I'm gonna be okay to declutter this one. I love a green eyeshadow, but I'm not gonna reach for this palette in, like, when I have other green palettes from indie brands that I prefer, that has like special formulas and shades and so on. And yeah, I'm gonna be okay to declutter this one from my life. I do like this project because it allows me to roll in eyeshadow and see if I'm like, do I plan to keep it or not? And this one I will be okay parting with at the end of the year. I'm gonna fill my eyeshadow collection soon. When I have time, I will try to do it. But yeah, not a pan, but I use it, no pan left behind, and I feel okay giving this away. Alright, then let's talk about, I have 2 items from my previous book that I was reading, that I was still working on, last update. So I read Wool in when? September, maybe. It's from Hugh Howey. It's, you know, the book that the series Silo is based on. And from that, I did enroll my Unearthly Cosmetics In the Dark palette. And I wanted to use this one, No Pan Left Behind, but I also wanted to hit pan in the shade Illusion here. And you can see what it's been looking like throughout. Why I wanted to hit pan in Illusion specifically is because in this book they are living under the illusion of what the outside world is like, or it's like they're questioning, is this an illusion or not? What is real and what is a lie? So I've worked on Illusion now for 2 months, and I have reached for it 18 times in total, and this is where we are. So as you can see, I do have a pan. This is the old palette. They have a new one where they changed up one of these to be a little bit more different, because they are very similar when you swatch them out. But very happy to have a pan in Illusion. I am trying to use my Unearthly palette a little more and try and hit pan in as many as I can. So very pleased to be rolling that one out. And then I also worked on a liquid lipstick. This is from Lethal Cosmetics, and it is in the shade Departure. And I wanted to use this 20 times. So I roll this one in correspondence to Wool, because the people who live in the silo, if they say they want to go out, they have to, like, that those words are very final. And one of the sheriff in the beginning, he says that I want to go out, so he's like departing the silo, basically. So I have now used this 20 times. I've used it more than 20 times actually, and I do have like a little bit of windowing on this one. As you can see, it does settle like a third down something. I used it today, so that is why it's not, I use it to brighten a little bit because my lips get very dark. But this is something I can potentially see myself panning next year, just because I do notice it settling. So I feel like it could work. It's not the biggest packaging either, so a potential panning item for next year. But I did reach the 20 uses, so I am going to roll that one out as well. So that means that we have no item remaining in this project when... so I'm going to talk about the items that I will roll in later. But let's talk about the books that I read after finishing the A Court of Mist and Fury. So I don't have a bunch of books here because I've read them, I borrowed them from the library. I work some hours in a library, and I I gave myself the task to read a bunch of detective stories, because we're trying to find a new good book for our students to use at school. So I did actually read 6 kind of detective thriller stories, and I don't have them with me, so let's talk about, I'm gonna try and breeze over them quite quickly, but the first one I read is called Hungermyren. I don't know how you would translate a myr, because it's a very Swedish, it's like a swamp-ish, and this takes place in Kiruna, I think, in northern Sweden. I'm from northern Sweden, so this is, you know, based locally. This one I gave 1 star on Goodreads. I have my Goodreads link down below if you're interested, but it was not very good at all. I felt very bored reading this one, and the author really didn't know what she wanted to tell, because she it was this story about a home a man returning back home to a new job, and he had been living in south of Sweden for a while, and then like his colleague and people talking about that there was supposed to be like gold here, and there is a murder. And they are like, ooh, who did this? But then it's like not focused on that. It's focused on this man who's returned home and his work. And then suddenly there are throwbacks to some people who were like from different, what do you say? Like you had indigenous, the Sami people, and the Kväner, which is also like a more indigenous peoples. Yeah, it was just very messy, and she didn't really know. And then at the end, the big revelation was just like, okay, this is someone who is mentally ill, and yeah, I don't really know how to explain this book. I was not impressed at all, so I sped run that one, and from the same author I did read Den första frosten, which is called like the first frost. And this one was also, I gave it 2 stars. It was a little bit better. I like books where you have an unreliable narrator, which this one was, but it was also, I think that she could have done so much more, because you followed 3 characters. One character who kind of flees back home, or flees to a cabin because she was traumatized. One of her colleagues died at work, and she cannot stop thinking about him dying. She worked as a car mechanic, and he was like fixing a car, and he died because the car fell down on top of him. And yeah, she has like much trauma from that experience. And then there's this other guy who he's recently divorced from he recently broke up with his girlfriend, or I don't remember if it was his wife. He's also like living out in the middle of nowhere, and starts getting to know her because they are the closest neighbors. And then you have this Finnish guy who's apparently has very strange ideas about women. And he's deciding to go to northern Sweden to go for a hike. And you kind of understand that the Finnish guy is the bad guy. And I felt like the author could have she could have been smarter here, because you knew that. I felt like it was a bit like, okay, well, no surprise, he was a douchebag. But then, okay, all right, you did have a little bit element of surprise, but you could also kind of figure out what really happened at the workplace where the colleague died and so on. So this was not really. It was more of a psychological thriller than a detective story, because there isn't a murder in the beginning of the book, really. Kind of things lead up to this very, like, the climax in the book at the end, where shit go down, but not very impressed by that one either. Then I read a book called Sly, which I don't know really how you would translate Sly. It's like the weed that grows, just weed, like growing, unkept nature. And this is also, we try to find books like in northern Sweden or in the Nordics. So this is in Åre, which is a very famous ski resort place in Sweden. And you follow the author Vanja, or the journalist Vanja. She is not a journalist anymore, but she gets this onto this case because there is a murder in a small town very close to where she lives. So she starts writing about this while she's also working at a school. And this one was better. I gave it a 3-star because it was a bit of tension, and you had flashbacks to what you would then realize was the murder victim. Flashbacks from her life and kind of how she grew up, and basically like her living situation and her trauma, how why someone would kill her later on in the book. So I did enjoy this one more, but it was still like, it was not mind-blowing by any means. Then I read a book called Reykjavik, a crime story by Ragnar Jonasson. So this is obviously an Icelandic author. And this one I liked. I gave it a 3-star as well. It's about a cold case. A 17-year-old woman disappears on Viday, which is like a little island very like close to Reykjavik. And you follow a lot of... There are like 3 main protagonists in this one. So the first one will be the detective from when she disappeared in the... when was this? Like the 50s. And then you will follow a journalist starting to write about this cold case 30 years later, because it's not... they were never able to solve it. And then you follow his sister. And then like there are a lot of other points of views as well, but those are like the 3 main ones. And I felt like this was always it was very focused on the cold case and the mystery aspect, what really happened. What I did feel like took the book like my ratings down is that you didn't really at the end, they solved the cold case, but as a reader you didn't really get a big, like a deeper understanding of what really went down. You know who did it, but you don't really get you don't know the murder and the motives well enough to feel like this was like striking a chord inside of me. So that was such a shame, because I did enjoy how the story was told otherwise. I also read the book Straffet, The Punishment from Yrsa Sigurdardottir. And this is also an Icelandic author, and it's about in the beginning of the book you read about this young child who, like the end of the chapter, she disappears, and then I think it's about like, what could it be, 15-20 years later, there is this police officer who has been giving a list, like a kill list that they found in a time capsule, and he's like, okay, this is a kill list, and then people suddenly start dying that can be like connected to this kill list. So what happened with the child who disappeared, or they when you jump into the future you get to know that she actually died. She was killed by a pedophile, and how is her death connected to the deaths that are currently happening, and they are quite gruesome. That's actually, this one was the most gory book out of the ones I read. I did enjoy it. This is not anything that we are going to be able to use with the students, because obviously there are a lot of trigger warnings here. But I do feel like the tension was there, the psychological thriller aspects were here in this book. So I did enjoy that one the most. I'm still not gonna give it 4 stars. But it was nice to talk about, how the systems in society, the things that are supposed to make to keep children safe, if that fails, like what could the consequences be? How can what will the effects be of a failed safety system in society? So So then I also read the book Huset vid Pärlälvens slut, the house by the at the end of the Pärlälven, like a river. And this was interesting. This takes place for quite a short amount of time. It's also a very short book, but this one I think was the best. You read it from the point of view of a bus driver, and like there is a voice that you don't really know who it is, and then you also read it from the point of view of a young boy, and this young boy is kidnapped by this bus driver, and it's really also kind of gory. This bus driver, he has obvious mental health issues that has not been dealt with, and he feels the need to drink human blood because he feels like he's empty. His heart is not beating. It was very strange. I really enjoyed the writing style here. It can be confusing, but I mean, you need to really understand like how mentally ill he is. He's basically schizophrenic. So the other point of view, like the voice that is addressing you as the reader, it's something in his head. So this one was very interesting, a good debut from this author, and I gave this one a 4-star. I'm gonna remember this book. The rest of them were like not memorable. So those are the crime stories that I read. I also read a book that I don't have with me here because my boyfriend is currently reading it. So it's The Will of the Many. I read this one when I traveled to Taiwan, and it was perfect because I spent a lot of time at flights and airports and at the train. So I did finish this book up. It's quite long. I love this one. I gave it a 5-star. I was very, very pleasantly surprised by this book. I wanted to read it before the new one was released to know if I wanted to actually keep on with this story. It was quite high fantasy. It took a while for me to get into the story in the beginning because I'm like, what are these people? What does this power mean? What does that word mean? So it was a bit like trickier to get into, but when you did, I really enjoyed it. You have this guy, who is an orphan, but he has like a hidden identity. He is adopted by one of the more powerful people in this society. They live in the hierarchy in Catalan, and the like magical system here is called will, and will can be given to people. So if everyone has like some will, but then it's like a pyramid base. So people who are not empowered, like Octavi, they have their own will, but then they need maybe to give will to people who are above them in rank or, in the society. So it was a very interesting magical system, I felt like, but they also bring up like the flaws, that this is a very flawed system because obviously it builds on greed, and why should a people be given so much power who is at the top of the pyramid? What happens when people in this pyramid dies? Because that will happen, that a lot of people will die, and then you need to kind of replace the people at the bottom if you want to maintain your the amount of power that you have. Really enjoyed the idea here. It was kind of confusing at times. There is this talk about the labyrinth. They are working because he is adopted by this powerful man and sent to a super elite school, and his adopted father, he sends him there because he wants him to find out what happened to his brother who died some years ago, and he feels that there are something that they are hiding at this academy. I want you to find out what is going on. And if you're not finding out what's going on, I'm gonna send you to like, they call it a sapper, which is basically worse than being dead, because this will drain all of the will from you. You will be like living like a ghost. So he really doesn't have a choice, but the protagonist, he also has like his hidden identity and his reasons for, and his own motives, maybe I should say. So really enjoyed that one. I gave it a 5-star. I highly recommend if you like high fantasy. The only thing that I kind of felt a bit so about was his age. I feel like they could have done this story with the elite school being a university. Now he's 17 years old, I think, 17 or 18. And I find that his drive and his reasonings would have made more sense if he was a little bit older. They are all quite young, his adoptive father and everyone, and I feel like it's a bit like how old people get in this society, because it feels like there are no really old people. And I think that I would have been more invested if he had been older. It would have made more sense, you know, how smart he is and what he's able to achieve would have made more sense if he was older. That's the only caveat I'd say for this story. Talking about labyrinths, so I do have a lot of books here that I read that I have with me. And I did read the Piranesi by Susanne Collins. First book I read from this author. This one was beautiful. I really loved it. It's not a long book, but it's a standalone. And this was a surprising, I'd say, urban fantasy, because you have a connection to the real world. But this story takes place in a different space, which is called a labyrinth. And it's actually, you have the protagonist, he moves around in all of these different rooms or halls, as he calls them. And in the vestibule, like the entrance, there are these statues of minotaurs. And if you're invested in labyrinth and in old tales, you know that the minotaurs are the guardians of the labyrinth, or I'm not really remembering. But I started thinking about House of Leaves, which I read last year. Because that's also like described as the labyrinth and the minotaur in the labyrinth. But this one was obviously not a horror story. It was a bit uncanny at times, but it also like described this world basically like a blissful utopian world, but there is only like 2 living people here, and then you have all the animals and a lot of statues, and it's kind of like I had no clue what I was getting into starting reading this one, but when you like go deeper into the story, you start realizing you get some answers, but not all of them. And I feel like all of these, like the statues and the places and what's going on, there is so much to unpack, so many symbols and metaphors. So I read this one quite quickly, but it's absolutely a rereadable story, because I feel like you can unpack a lot from this. So I did really love this one. I gave it a 5-star as well. But yeah. Then I have my second DNF of the year. This is Matriarkatet, the Matriarchy by Hanna Svanberg. This one was just so badly written. I like the premise of the story. It's like a society that is flipped. So instead of living in a patriarchy, people are living in a matriarchy. So the women hold all the power. But then the women are also, you know, the one committing all the crime, like sexual harassments and so on. So you follow a journalist, Mikael, who is who's moving to Stockholm for like a summer job, and he wants to write a story about the prostitution scene in Stockholm, and it's written so, like, the author obviously had an idea what she wanted to tell, but she is not an author, is my like conclusion, because it's so bad. It was written in such a clumpy, on the nose way, and it's also written in present tense, which I felt was very annoying when reading in Swedish. I don't feel the same when I read present tense in English books. For example, The Will of the Many is also in present tense, but this one was just, I don't know, it's very subject heavy. So, you know, if you have the subject of the sentence, it's like, Mikael did this, he said this, the book was blah 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 blah. So you have like the subject, the main focus of the sentence, always in the beginning, which is not like, it gives just such a, it's just not very refined. It's not very varied, the language, and yeah, it was just too bad. I read half of this before deciding, no, I'm not gonna force myself to read it, even though it's not that long, because I was just so annoyed reading it. So this is the second DNF of the year. But let's talk about the book that I am currently reading, because I think that is all. Those are all the books that I read the last month, which is, you know, quite a few. But many of them were like speedrunning detective stories. So I am currently reading this one. This is On the Wings of Blood by Briar Bolane. Love the sprayed edges here. This one I got because of Ali Dawson and Angelica Nyquist talking about this. I love dragons, and I thought this sounds interesting. Little did I know, I didn't really realize it was about vampires. So when I started reading it, it was a bit cringy. I feel like I might be ruined from Twilight era about like vampires. It feels a bit, yeah, for me. But it's getting better. I have read about half of this book now, and it is about Midra, who in the beginning of the book, she's kind of appears in this world. You don't really know anything about her. She appears in this world hidden beneath corpses, and someone finds her, and she realizes that like the people who find her, they are vampires. They are obsessed with her red hair and her pointy ears because she is half fae. But she has obviously ended up in a different world than her own, and they don't have fae in that world. So she is brought to like the court or the leader of the country. And they say this is, you know, look at her, she looks like a dragon rider, and the dragons are not, dragons have died, have long been dead, and she is like the first dragon rider, they think, because of her looks, because of her pointy ears and her red hair. The vampires in this book, they all have blonde hair, and that's kind of how you distinguish if someone is a vampire or not. And she is like, it goes so fast. She's thrown into this, okay, we are not gonna kill her, you are going to be betrothed to the prince. So here you are, you're his consort. Now let's throw her into this academy, Bloodwing Academy, to this school where she is, you know, supposed to hone her skills because she will be married to the prince. And he is like, oh no, I cannot marry someone human. She is a barbarian because humans are seen as less of people than vampires. But little does he know that she is actually a princess from her own old world. So I feel like in the beginning I was a bit not really sure about this one because so much happens that like the same with this. with Akutar, the first one. I feel like the author really doesn't take her time giving reasons and, you know, expanding on thoughts and character. You're like thrown into it and like, okay, now she's gonna marry him and now she's in this school, and it's just, it's too fast. It's getting better now. I feel like it's the author was so keen on just throwing her into school so she could actually start the story or whatever, but I felt like it could have benefited from a little bit to drag out things, ideas, you know, character development more in the beginning of this book. But I am starting to get more into it now, so we shall see where we end up. But for this book I am going to enroll 3 things because I don't have any items remaining here. So I'm going to enroll a nail polish again. This is by Mooncat. It's one of my favorite nail polishes in my entire collection. Look at this. It's such a sparkly, shifty polish. This is the shade Dragon Scales, which obviously is connected to the books because of her being a supposedly a dragon rider, even though they say that the dragons are long dead and gone. So, you know, dragon scales, dragon rider. We have dragon scales here on the side. So that's the first item. Then I'm gonna roll into eyeshadow palettes because my eyeshadow palette collection is coming up and I need to get through some, get my thoughts on some of these. So I'm bringing in my Musée Beauty Le Jardin or Kailav Beauty. This is no longer, Kailav Beauty is no longer a brand. I do have quite a few of their palettes that I bought when they had like their closing down sale. This is the palette. I'm gonna bring it in to have no pan left behind, but I'm also gonna try and hit pan in the shade here called Snapdragon. Now I know Snapdragon is not a dragon, but it has dragon in its name, so that is my reasoning. It's a pink shade, but the same goes with the Tinkerbell palette. If I use this no pan left behind and feel like, okay, this is something that I can actually part with, I am going to do so. I hit pan in different Kailav palettes and they are quite deep, so we shall see. But it's a nice like pink shade. This is something because it does not have special shimmer shades that I'm kind of like, do I really need it? But if the mattes perform well, I can absolutely keep it. So we're gonna bring that palette in, and then I'm also bringing in my Unearthly palette. This is 1964 from one of their Halloween releases. When was it? 2 years ago? As I said, I want to try and use and hit pan in my Unearthly palette. This is the color story. And what I'm gonna see if I do, because I have 2 shades here that I can focus on hitting pan on, that would make sense. One is this called Dragula, which is this dark, cool tone, like grayish brown. There we go. This one is something I'm wearing today because I deepened it up on the outer corner. I can also use the shade, this green shade here, because it's called Vampire, and that makes sense because, of course, this is a book about vampires. Now the green shade does not really go with other colors that I'm trying to pan, which is why I'm giving myself the option of trying to hit pan in one of the other. I also want to try to use this no pan left behind. I've already started working on this one. Like I've used this shade quite a lot. It's a beautiful, beautiful purple shade, because it went really well with a different color I was panning. But this is the second palette that I'm gonna bring in. I'm looking forward to it. This is a nice palette that I have not used. I've used it a decent amount of time now, this at the end of the year, but yeah, we're working on the Unearthly palettes one step at a time. So that is it. Those are the 3 items that I'm gonna enroll and that correspond to this book. So hopefully this will be finished by next update. I don't think it's gonna be an issue. I do have 2 other dragon books that I'm gonna like try and read. Because I felt like, you know, we should focus on my dragon books. I do have quite a few that I have not read yet, so that is it. And let me know what you have recently read. I love to get, you know, book recommendations from you, and if you want to see what I'm reading, if you want to follow me on Goodreads, I have it linked down below. I also now have a TikTok and an Instagram account for my reading. So if you're interested in that, I will also try and remember to link it down below. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this update. I hope that you are well, and yeah, subscribe if you like this type of content, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!